Welcome everybody to Capes and Scowls, and today I'm Tim. This is Schuster.
Schuster.
We're going to talk about Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange,
It
one
isn't.
of my favorites.
Oh, you love Doctor Strange.
I'm a loving collector of that gentleman.
He's a gentle soul.
Gentle. So arrogant soul, but gentle.
He's total prick. Doctor Strange is coming out this weekend, and we're going to just discuss. We don't know anything. There's not going to be spoilers because we haven't seen it. We haven't read anything on the internet. We're just going to talk about what we want from this movie. It sounds like it's getting really good reviews.
Currently, at this moment, a lot of people have reviewed it. I have looked at a couple of the non-spoiler reviews, just an overview, and they're loving it. So...
Yeah. I know it was at 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, but
at one point,
I don't know. I'm sure it's changed.
I did hear though it's going to be 70 mil for the weekend is what is currently projected.
Well, I will be donating a couple bucks towards that, I hope.
Couple bucks.
Several dollars.
Yes.
So, what do you want from this movie? And you got to come at it looking from the perspective of your average comic fan who got in through movies maybe, and now they're trying to get in a little bit more. They're like, they don't know anything about Doctor Strange.
Yeah. See, this is a weird one because we're now starting to delve into heroes and villains that very few people know. Now, obviously, Doctor Strange has been around since the 60s, but not everybody knows who Doctor Strange is, especially the general audience.
Right.
And he's such a out there premise. You're now entering magic and mysticism and alternate universes into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Not something they haven't done before. Mm-hmm. So they've got a lot of treading to do. They've got to put it all out there and see if people like it.
Right. So Strange, he started in the 60s. He was part of Strange Tales with Nick Fury. He split the book with him. He got his own series later on as well, so he had a series.
I should have had props because I do have a large Doctor Strange collection.
Oh, that's fine. No props, sorry. He had a 70s run, he had a late 80s into the 90s run, and he hasn't had a long ongoing run since that up until current.
Yeah.
But that version of Doctor Strange isn't quite the classic. It's more of an update, and it's not a bad update, but it's not quite what you may see in this movie.
What, the current iteration?
The current iteration of Doctor Strange.
I could probably rant on the newest run.
Let's not do that.
I said I could.
All right. Well.
So I will. No.
But
no.
Here we
go. Go pick it up. It's an enjoyable read. It's just there are a few changes in the lore, a few changes of character things that I just didn't like.
Character things?
Yeah, I was trying to go for something, and my mind just...
Character things.
Character things.
What up, character things?
But overall, it's a good read. It's just, I personally, as a Strange fan, had issues with certain things.
Okay, so that being said, I don't feel like the classic, the old school Strange Tales stuff that turns into Doctor Strange at some point. I don't feel like that needs too much of an update for this movie. I feel like that stuff would actually work in the movie.
It's so crazy. Some people keep calling it psychedelic. It's so out there.
But that could happen back then. That could happen current day, and it would be believable because it's not really tied to anything we are familiar with in our regular daily lives.
His average foes are like D minus level things, like the craziest shit somebody on acid decided to come up with.
They do get better. They definitely are great villains.
But when you look at,
started a little,
yeah, like a lot of his is weird shit. You know, not shit villains as they're bad. They're just crazy out there, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I like Doctor Strange is because he's not just fighting a crazy scientist with a doomsday machine. You know, the 3000's incarnation of it.
Right.
You know, he's fighting some crazy cat deity from another dimension.
Yes, while he's in a yoga pose on his couch.
Exactly. Going to the astral plane, which you should learn about in this movie. Yes. There should be no reason why the astral plane is not delved into in this movie. It's a fairly decent part of Doctor Strange.
Right.
How powerful will he be is what I'm interested in. As we all know, from Thor, not to cut you off, but
Sure.
from Thor, he's not as powerful as he is in the comics.
Right. And I think they do have to mess with power levels across the board, especially if they're going to bring in Thanos as the ultimate thing they're
Yeah.
bringing in. Thanos needs to be insanely strong. But I feel Doctor Strange is he needs to be strong. Maybe not in this movie because this is going to be a trilogy, probably at least. So
They're banking on it from what I hear.
I mean,
They're losing stars, they're losing the top end Avengers in a way, so they're trying to create new bankable stars, and that's perfectly acceptable.
it's what you got to adapt. You've
You
created the
gotta
universe and you keep moving with it. But if they're going to do a trilogy, this can be him at his weakest, and then by the end of it, he's really strong. He is in the comics at times, like in New Avengers and other books, he is borderline plot device. He's almost too strong.
Yeah,
You don't, and I love that run because they were.
I have a good portion of that run.
That run's great. I'm not saying it's not great. They were fighting really strong characters as a group, and he was definitely necessary. But that's not where this movie is. This movie is not at that point. When they get to Infinity War, he might be one of the most important characters in there, and I hope he is.
Yeah.
But for right now, I want him to be weak. I want them to really... One thing I want them to really focus on is his inability to use his hands, and that he's not a physical fighter.
Yes.
There have been certain books where they show him fighting hand-to-hand a little bit, and he actually uses judo, which I thought was a great touch, because he doesn't have the use of his hands. His hands are all mangled and destroyed. He can't be a doctor anymore. So he actually uses the person's weight and motion to use judo throws on them, and then he turns them into a rabbit or whatever he's going to do. So I want your opinion on how, keeping in mind, I think this is going to be a trilogy. It most likely will be a trilogy, at least. So villains. Villains are important, and Doctor Strange does not have a ton of named villains. So that being said, natural progression over 3 movies, where would you want the villains to go?
I kind of want this. I don't know if they're going to have. Hands down, Dormammu is the
biggest,
baddest. The Joker to Batman. That's his level.
That has to be Endgame. He can show up in movies.
I kind of want an Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
I kind of want the origin film, and then you kind of go all out with a fight with Dormammu in the Empire Strikes Back kind of middle movie, and then you have maybe someone like I'm trying to remember. Was it Nightmare, where he has it's a entity that resides in in your nightmares, in your dreams, and the dreams are actually their own reality, their own dimension, and he has to fight against the literal embodiment of your nightmares, which is something that's really cool.
Right. He's another one. There's 2 more that I can think of. There's 2 more.
Okay, good. Go for it.
Baron Mordo.
Well, okay. I guess.
But he's not necessarily...
He's in this, so I wasn't really counting it.
Right, but you don't know if he's going to be good or bad.
Yes.
He doesn't have to be a bad guy, actually, the way this is going.
No, and that's kind of why I didn't mention him, because, I mean, he's pretty obvious. And,
Sure.
And I've also seen the trailers where he is kind of mentoring with the Ancient One, so I was just like, well, maybe they're not going to do Baron Mordo as...
And maybe they won't.
Mustache-twirling villain.
Maybe... For lack of a better word, maybe he's that vigilante type where he's not quite good, he's not quite bad.
He, sheds different moralities.
Right, and that's probably a big part of
the
Doctor Strange, because it's a mental kind of thing. It's not very physical, and that's why the effects are so great and fantastical. But there's another character that people will know from Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Do you remember? The little green monster that people might know? That's a Doctor Strange villain.
I don't think I played that game very much. I know that Dormammu's in that game.
No, he's in the 3rd one.
He's in the 3rd one?
He's in Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Somebody kicked my ass with him one time.
Shemagorath.
Oh.
The little green dude with the eyeball. He's a little monster.
Yeah.
He's super
that's
strong.
right. Yeah.
So, me thinking logically, which is probably a bad idea, but me thinking Doctor Strange villains people will know from those games. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is one of the biggest games, period, ever.
It is.
So... people know that character. People know Dormammu from the third one.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good natural progression. And I don't want to go much more into that because if they follow the comics, that I would spoil things that
Sure.
may likely happen
Yes.
as it pertains to other characters we already know are in the film. So I'm going to just not even mention that. We're not going to go into details. But that's a bunch of villains. So look up those villains and see what you like about them, and maybe they'll show up in your movie. And if they show up maybe as a cameo in the movie, you'll have some idea of who they are.
So what do you think about the betrayal from Benedict Cumberbatch?
I love Benedict Cumberbatch.
So do I.
I think he always puts his best effort into everything he does.
Yes.
Even in movies where it's like I didn't care. Like for example, Star Trek, him as Khan. I didn't like it, but he put everything he had into it.
I liked it.
The movie's fine. It's just I didn't like that portrayal of Khan. It wasn't Ricardo Montalban. I'm very much
considering
like
there's
that.
only been one portrayal.
Yeah, but it's tough when it's been that good and that iconic.
And in this regard, I'm not gonna argue with you. Ricardo Montalban's awesome. Okay, he is Khan, but I actually didn't mind Cumberbatch as Khan. I thought he had a slightly different take on it, and his over exaggerated talk, I thought was cool.
It's almost like I think that if they just went about it a little bit differently, I would have been a little more.
I was more annoyed with the Spock screaming Khan shit in there. Spoilers, I know.
Yeah.
This movie's been out a few years, so you can ignore those.
So basically, the lesson here is Ricardo Montalban was awesome.
Yes.
May he rest in peace.
And Cumberbatch, I thought, did a good job.
My point was he always does a really good job,
Yes.
whether you like what he's in or not. You know.
But is he going to be like the old school Strange, Harry,
Where
the
he's-
halls of Horgoth, and
So
kind of Shakespearean?
So you want
over the top?
Is he going to do over the top casting and
Yes.
really dramatic and showy?
By the eye of Agamotto, that kind of stuff. Because that happens in the comments.
Or is he going to be this stoic, smartass Tony Stark almost-esque character where he's just really
Which he does,
a jerk?
which he is throughout his comic book run, but he kind of evolves into that more as he progresses.
It's such a weird character over time. There's times where he's not really a jerk, and there's times where he's just like, yeah, this is what we gotta do. And there's other times where he's like, why are you here? Or I don't give a crap about you.
The modern interpretation of Strange can be very much summed up in he is Tony Stark with magic.
Yeah, it's very similar.
He's arrogant, cocky, kind of a womanizer at times.
He can be.
Can be.
He's very mean to Wong. Really
not
mean.
particularly nice to him.
Yeah, borderline racist to Wong and the old stuff. But
I had something, but I don't have it.
well, it's gone. So
It's
move
gone. But no, whereas Tony has his incredible intellect and his toys or his stuff, his gadgets. You just replace that with magic.
Yeah.
Magic and trinkets.
Trinkets and different things.
Yes.
And what's great about Strange is there's no limits. Like you could make up any old magic artifact. The mouse pad of doom, and like he'll go find it on a quest.
Oh yeah.
And in some other dimension fighting, and he could fight like, hey, it's like a medieval kind of place. He's fighting dragons and demons and things, and like
there's literally endless.
Yes.
You could have, just so many movies, you could do a TV show with dozens and dozens of seasons, and you never have to rehash stuff.
I want it to look good. I don't want it to look like some sort of acid trip. I don't want it to be shocky.
Yeah.
I want it to be like it looks like Inception. A lot of the stuff looks like Inception. That's fine.
I'm kind of annoyed that people just go, "Oh, that's Inception." I'm just like, just because one movie, I don't know. It's the Matrix thing. It's just like every bullet time becomes Matrix. So, because when I watched it, I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. That's an interesting hook," and everyone's just like, those buildings are doing exactly the same thing as they did in the Inception. And
That building wasn't in Inception. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and I'm just like, let's see the full film. Let's before we make that kind of judge.
So to sum this all up, and wrap this up with a nice little bow. And by the way, I love that you brought up Nightmare. I didn't even think of Nightmare.
Yes.
Because Nightmare is also a Ghost Rider villain on occasion.
Is he? I'm not. I'm not too into.
On occasion, because they fight demons. Is the thing
Sure.
that Strange and Ghost Rider tends to share.
Yeah.
And Satan and Zarthos and all these things. So.
Mephisto.
And the whole Midnight
Mephisto.
Suns thing they did in the 90s with Morbius and Darkstalkers and Blade and things like that, Darkhold. So there's a tie there. Not that they're going to do it, but they have Ghost Rider on S.H.I.E.L.D. Maybe Nightmare is a good thing to bridge those movies and the shows in another way. So I'm glad you brought that up. How do you feel, just in closing, how do you think this movie's going to rank? Overall, with all these Marvel movies, we've said before a lot of the movies we like. We like the first Iron Man. We like Civil War. We like Winter Soldier.
I don't. Is there an origin story that's bad?
Not that it's bad, but there's weaker movies.
Sure.
The first Thor is not incredibly strong. Comparatively. It's not.
See, that's kind of why it's less that there's weaker ones, because obviously there will be, but actually just mediocre origins, and some people say, I keep hearing Captain America 1 as being that movie that that's a lot of people don't like, and I'm just
I love that movie.
That is the perfect trilogy.
I agree. It's a very good trilogy
because you have a great origin story, and I love that movie. So I don't think there really is.
I think
a
lot of people don't like period pieces, and it has to be kind of be a period piece.
Which hopefully we have a period piece coming up next year in Wonder Woman. So hopefully people get that out of their system.
That could be the same movie as Captain America, and I'd be happy.
It looks like it. It's just World War I and World War II.
I don't care. That's fine.
Don't.
They have a similar origin as far as time frame, so yes, we should see similar.
But you're right. Things. Timepieces tend to be a little rough for audiences. They don't.
In general,
they don't like it.
Right.
But I think ranking wise, I think this is going to be up there with, like Ant-Man. I think.
Yeah.
Probably not on the same level as Iron Man 1. Iron Man 1 has a weird place for me because it's the first one, and it was so good and so revolutionary to the industry and movies, and of course superhero movies.
Right.
That it's kind of hard to put something else near that pedestal, in a way.
I think it'll be really good. I think they've just been continually stepping up their game.
Oh yeah.
And there's definitely a really well written underlining story that once everything is done will make a lot of sense.
Yes. And that brings me to the villain. Is this going to be another throwaway villain? Because Marvel does do that, and it really irks me.
Right.
Where they have a great villain, and they just give 20% screen time, very little screen time to get the character motivations going, and then in the end battle sequence kill off or remove the character in some weird way.
Right. I mean, they did a good job with Civil War.
Yes, a Civil War.
Zemo, he had a lot of time on screen, and I thought that was really good. I
still think he won.
He kind of did. He accomplished his goals.
He accomplished exactly what he wanted to do. The Avengers are fractured.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I so hope we get Thunderbolts out of that.
Oh, I just want to see him put the purple.
Yeah.
Purple on.
Do you want the more streamlined mask, or you want the fur and the
I'll take the fur. I'll take and him just holding the goblets and fit, yelling at Captain America. I'll take that. I know that's not the character we got in Civil War,
right?
So I don't know how that's going to. I always wanted a Masters of Evil Avengers film.
I like the Masters of Evil.
I always wanted to see that.
Maybe you'll get it, but. We're rambling a bit, so I'm going to end it here. Thank you for checking us out. Make sure you go to capesandscowlspodcast.com for all our audio content as well as our YouTube content here. Mm-hmm. And we're also on Patreon. So we're at patreon.com/capesandscowlspodcast. And you don't have to feel pressured. You give us $1. It'll help tremendously. We'll be able to do more content for you. Definitely. So if you like us even a little bit, just give us $1. It's cool. If you don't want to, it's fine. We're here for you on YouTube. Not everybody can give $1. I hear you.
Exactly.
I can't support everything I want on Patreon or Kickstarter or any
of those sites.
I can't go fund crap, but if you can, I appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.